All right, y'all. Welcome back into ShedTalk. I got another good guest come in tonight. Figure we talk about some of the stuff that hits home for a lot of us because we support our armed services. And this person, let me just give a little introduction about her. Here we go. She was enlisted in 2011 into the Kentucky National Guard as a 25U, that is a signal support specialist. She served 5 years. Also, she enrolled in the University of Louisville in the ROTC program. She commissioned in 2016 as a 35D, that is a military intelligence officer. She spent 5 years active duty, completed 13 months tour in Afghanistan, and then she actually retired medically in 2021. Wow, that's a lot. Welcome in, Danny. How you doing tonight?
Good, Sean. Thank you.
Okay. Uh, wow. Thank you. Thank you for everything that you've done. My first thing is like, what made you get into the service? Like, what was that for you?
Okay, this actually shocked a lot of people. So I was your typical high school cheerleader. Um, no one in my family served except a great uncle who I never met. He passed away before I was born. So that was never like a family thing. Um, I was in my freshman year of college, paying for it myself, working a 40-hour plus job, and I was struggling. I had just broken up with a boyfriend, was just not in a good place, and I asked God to give me a sign. So one day I was in the mall, and lo and behold, I see a sign that says 100% tuition paid for, join the Kentucky National Guard. And so I was like, you know what? Like any car, you want to test drive it before you jump in and buy it. So I was like, the Kentucky National Guard, it's part time. Let me do it. So I went into the recruiter's office and I said, I want to take the job that is leaving the quickest. I want out of here. That's what I did. I had no idea what to expect. I had no experience, no
Right.
guidance. It was completely world changing for me. You know the famous shark attack that everybody talks about? Like you get to basic and all the drill sergeants just like rush you and they're like
Right.
in
Right.
your
Right.
face. That was me. Little old Danny with like a big old like rucksack on her back, drill sergeants yelling, just
Crying like,
cried.
what
I
did I
was
get
like, I am
myself into?
in, like, what did I get myself into? Um, and that was like my switch. I was like, okay, game on, let's do it. Loved
So,
it.
so let me ask you this question right here. Like, you were looking for the atmosphere of having more of a purpose, and I mean, you kind of changed gears, but you were still kind of ready for the fast paces because you said that you were a cheerleader, right? So
Yeah,
you were kind of like ready for that.
yeah. I need
Was it
fast pace. I need challenge. Like I'm a person who gets bored. I need to be mentally stimulated. I need to be challenged. What
all
other
the
great
time?
challenge could you do? And that was like a perfect storm for me that I had no
Is
idea.
is basic training difficult for a lot of people?
Yes, I would say yes. Unless like you like grew up in a military family. For
Mm-hmm.
me, it was difficult in the beginning, right? Because the whole idea of basic is stripping down a person's identity. Who you are a civilian no longer matters. Whatever your identity is, it doesn't matter. They're
Right.
going to build you the way that they want you, right? Your mean, lean fighting machine, you know.
So
Um,
they break you down and build you back up. Is that true?
it is very much true.
I just thought that was like a gimmick off of TV, like off a movie. That's what they said, like a
No,
punchline.
it's very true. So yeah, it was hard because like I'm a social butterfly and sometimes I ask questions like why? I'm always like questioning the status of like why are we doing this? I need to make sense of things in the world. And so that was a little challenging for me to just like, be quiet and do as I'm told blindly. you
And
know?
not knowing exactly what was coming next, just know that you have to be ready.
Exactly. But I'll tell you, I absolutely loved it. Looking back on it, like, there's a saying, it's called like embrace the suck. And when you are in a really crappy situation and you're with a bunch of people and you are experiencing that big pile of crap together, you bond. And it's like this bond that you guys both share. You don't have to talk about it, but you guys are there sucking together. Like, you're out in the rain doing push ups, hating life. But like, like the person beside you is also experiencing that. And so it's like a comfort knowing that you're not alone.
Right, right. So when you're crying, there's other people crying.
Yeah, yeah, but there's no crying. Like after that shark attack, there's no more tears.
After that,
Well, unless like you do it quietly somewhere else.
locked in. Just
Locked
locked in
in.
from there. Locked in from there. So let me ask you this question here. As far as in whenever you went from being enlisted and then you went to commission as an officer, what was that transition like for you mentally through that process?
Mentally, I think it wasn't even a challenge. It wasn't really much of a transition. I have always been a leader. I think
Mm-hmm.
like that's just who I am as a person. And that's why I wanted to shift from enlisted to become an officer because I'm so driven. I'm a strategic thinker. I can delegate, right? I see the world differently.
Right, right.
So I think the transition from enlisted to become an officer was super easy mentally. It was hard because I am so hands on. I like to do things, right? I am not the type of person to be like, I need you guys to do X, Y, and Z and me not do it.
Mm-hmm.
So I was just like, I'm a different type of officer, right? And they call us Mustangs. If you've been enlisted and then you transition to an officer, you're a Mustang. And so I was always in there hands on with my soldiers doing things, while other officers who had no enlisted experience just sat back and watched it, or like they were doing other things. The hard part was for me to separate myself from the enlisted world versus the officer world because the enlisted they have more fun. They do more fun things. And so that was a hard emotionally disconnecting from that enlisted world.
Wow. So let me ask you this: being that you're a female in the military, did you ever get yourself in the position or feel like you had to prove yourself because you were a female at all?
Yeah, I think every female feels like this, right? We're in a male-dominated field, right? There are more men than there are women in the military. And so what does that produce? That produces this unspoken competition. So not only are you competing against the males, right? That are your peers, but you're also competing against the females and you want to be the best female out of like the
All the
female peer
females.
group. Exactly. And so it breeds like this toxic competition, but yet there's a sisterhood at the same time. It's kind of messy, right? But you're always like trying to prove yourself. Not only are you capable of keeping up, but you're also competent, right? Being a blonde female prior cheerleader, a lot of people looked at me as, oh, you must be a ditzy blonde. So a really hard, it took a really long time for me to establish that I was competent. And not only that, not just being a female, but also being from Kentucky, I had a draw. So like going through basic officer leader course, I had to take speech classes because basically what they said was that when you give briefs, if you have an accent, you lose credibility. So not
Really?
only did I have to tackle the angle of like I'm a female, I have to like prove myself. But now I have an accent and now I need to prove that I'm competent. And so like there's a lot of different angles that I like had to prove myself in, but it didn't take long to actually prove that I was competent.
Wow. That's all. That's amazing. I would have never thought about that. So the ROTC program. What was that experience like for you?
For me, It was so after I did like my basic training, AIT, I came back to finish my degree, right? Because that was the thing that sold me is that 100% tuition, right? So I came back to finish my degree, joined ROTC because I was like, I want to do this full time. I love this, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, so in ROTC, there are kids that are straight in college, no prior military experience, and they're in the same ROTC program. You also have people who've been on active duty who were, NCOs that are wanting to transition. So you're mixed with a bunch of different experience levels. So for me, it was I want to be a sponge and learn as much as I can from the NCOs that have been on active duty, listening to their stories, listening how they interacted with the officers, so that way I could, maybe use it, take it as a lesson learned, and not do some of those things. But it was also like dealing with like the kids that were 21, and you're like, oh my gosh, this kid is about to be an officer and lead soldiers, so it's like a
Right.
panic. But at the same time, like it sets you up for like critical thinking, strategically thinking, getting you
Leadership role,
prepared.
like a
Exactly.
leadership
Leadership.
role. Right. Wow.
Exactly.
That's
But I wouldn't say that is what actually shaped me as a leader. It was not ROTC. ROTC was like a more of like a stepping stone, a little stepping block to get me to active duty. What really shaped me as a leader was observing other leaders, right? Good, bad, and difference. I took everything away. If there was a bad leader, I took that and was like, this is who I don't want to be like. I don't want to have these qualities. If I
right.
see a good leader, I'm like, okay, I'm going to take this quality, that quality. I love this. But it was really when I was downrange in Afghanistan, there was a Marine colonel, and the best mentor I've ever had, which was a complete shock to me, right? I'm Army, Marines, they eat crowns, right?
Right.
No. He told me to read this book. It's called Taking the Guide On. It's an exceptional leadership at the company level, and it changed my mind. This book alone shaped who I was as a leader. Um, Absolutely, I rave about it. I was like, if anyone is a leader, it doesn't even matter if you're like in the military or not. Like, you can take some of those principles and apply it to everyday life. Um, so
Okay.
yeah,
Okay. So, one other thing here. You were saying something about an article that you actually wrote, correct?
yeah,
Let's bring that up real quick. Let's see if we can bring it up. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
yeah. So I wrote an article, um, back when I was having a hard time in life. Right, we all have demons, right? We all have a past that we're
Is
not
this
proud of.
this is it right here?
Yeah, battle with demons by choosing to live. And so essentially, I was in a dark place and I had lost some friends, was in a very hard point in my marriage, and I felt alone. And then, I don't know, it just weighed on my heart, and I just started writing. I started writing about, you know, that we're always going to have battles. We are always going to face a battle. Like life is a war, right? The entire span of our life is a war. And so it's just focusing on each battle that's coming, right? And you have to make the conscious decision each battle to keep pushing,
Right.
to not let that demon win, right? Not let that negative talk, that insecurity, your trauma, whatever haunts your mind and your psyche to win. And you have to think about it. It's like one battle at a time. And I think a lot of people get so caught up in their own demons that they lose sight of the light at the end of the tunnel, right? Um, so yeah, it talks about my experience about like a personal demon without actually saying, anything. It's kind of abstract, but I feel a lot of people can relate to it.
Awesome. Awesome. That's definitely a good article. And I'll have that actually posted on here at the bottom of this podcast. So anybody that's interested, you can click on it and go ahead and read that right there. And yeah, it's pretty cool. So the other thing, intelligence work. What is, can you talk about that a little bit? Like what is that going on with that?
Well, intelligence drives operations, so like you need intelligence. Basically, right? You need to know what the enemy's doing, how they
Hmm.
operate, so that way you can plan your operations, right? So that was essentially kind of what I did. I can't really go into specifics of like what I did,
Hmm.
but I'll tell you, right? I'm a very inquisitive, I'm driven. I need answers. I need to put all the puzzle pieces together. And that's why I really loved being in the intelligence field, right? Everything's a puzzle, everything is connected. How do I connect it? Um, but at the same time, it comes a lot of responsibility, right? You are given information that could impact lives.
Right.
And so, how do you handle that, especially as a young officer, right? I was a little bit older than like just a regular person who went through the ROTC program, who's like now 21, 22, 23. I'm a little bit older. So it is scary, right? You're handing a lot of responsibility to such young leaders and you're trusting them to make the right decision. I don't know why I'm having such a hard time
It's
saying
all
this
good.
decision. But that is the good thing about having non-commissioned officers. They're the backbone of the Army. They're the backbone of all the military branches, and it's really leaning in on your NCOs and your soldiers, right? You don't make the decision. Oh my goodness
It's all good.
gracious! You don't make the decision alone, and so yeah, you have to weigh the pros, the cons. But at the end of the day, like it is your call to make.
Right.
Um, it's never easy. It's stressful.
So briefly, just talking a little bit about when you got deployed over to Afghanistan. Um, can you tell a little bit about what reality was compared to what you thought it was going to be like? Is it two different worlds compared?
It is completely two different worlds. Again, I'm like just I'm a weird person. I think I was just born this way, but I try not to have expectations because expectations always leads to like a disappointment or anxiety that is just not needed, right? So I went in no expectations. Like this is my job. I know what I need to do. I'm going to just stay tunnel vision, lock in, get my job done and do that. No expectations. However, when I got there, I started to realize that there are so many things that like I personally have taken for granted and like I feel like we all take for granted. The simple things, right? Simple things is like toilet paper, sitting down to go to the bathroom, having the ability to take a shower, to eat when you want. You know, we're so used to having like our phones, getting on social media, like you're out in the middle of nowhere. No, you're having to dig a hole to go to the bathroom. You're having to like stay up really late and like take shifts and you're always like heightened because you never know what's going to happen. There's no sense of safety. And so I think like I took a lot of things for granted that
Yeah.
I didn't realize. But also I dyed my hair brown when I went over there. I did do that prior because I was scared. I didn't want to be a blonde, blue-eyed female in Afghanistan.
She's
Um
she said I ain't sticking out. Got to
I'm
blend
not
in where you
sticking
fit
out,
in
right?
at, right?
But it was weird, right? Because like here in America, like women, we can speak up, we can say what we want, and there's no fear. I was attached to the Marines out in, the western part of Afghanistan, and we were out on this mission. It was the first time in my life that I truly felt scared, scared to be a female. And, walking through like their version of a police station, all these like guys talking, I turned to my linguist and I said, "What are they saying?" And they're like, "You don't want to know." And I just immediately had that gut feeling and I was like, "No, I want to know." And so that is when he translated that, it just made me feel so sick,
Right.
that like I am somewhere where like I don't have that freedom. I could not walk and do anything alone. They would, it's not safe.
So
Um,
you always had someone with you, right? Correct?
yeah, always.
Okay, you don't yeah, so you even when you got to go to the bathroom, somebody can see
Always
exactly
with
where
you.
you're
You're
at.
never alone. Never alone. But it was simple, right? Life there was simple. I didn't have to worry about Let me get up, do my hair. Let me get up, let me do my makeup. What am I going to wear today? What am I going to eat? What do I need to fix? I wonder what so and so posted on social media today. Like, it is literally so simple. And sometimes I miss that simplicity of life,
Right.
but I love my freedom. So,
Yeah, right, right. That's why you signed up for that, giving back a little bit. Um, Another question for you. Whenever the transition, whenever you came back, the TBI, can you go into a little bit what that actually is?
yeah, so I was stateside. I had a TBI, which is a traumatic brain injury. Sadly, I don't have a cool story. Like, my traumatic brain injury didn't happen downrange. I was actually stateside, and a ceiling collapsed on my head, and traumatic brain injury. And that shifted who I was completely. I was like this outgoing, confident, like you couldn't touch me. Like, I was just fierce and relentless and unwavering. The TBI wrecked me. I lost all my confidence. I had speech problems. I mean, obviously, I still have speech problems, but I no longer was extroverted. I became an introvert. I had these horrible migraines that I had to go on like all these medications, and then ended up getting drug induced lupus. And then I had to go through like extensive therapy.
Mm-hmm.
But who I was died, and I became a different person. And so, like, weirdly, like, I'm trying to get back to like a similar version of who I was, who is more confident and outgoing, outspoken, um, fearless. But the sad reality is I'll never be that person ever again because I had this traumatic brain injury. I can only strive to be a different version of that person, but a better version of who I was when that incident happened. The transition was hard because when you remember, I'm like, if anyone's ever played sports, right, and it takes you out, or you're like in the gym, you get an injury, and then you have to start back over. You remember like what it was like to
That
be able
reality
to
check.
like,
It's a reality check of where you were at and where you're at now. And a lot of that comes into play is, as we develop through life, we go through different seasons, as you will. And a lot of times the seasons that we have to go through are not the seasons that we would like to have to go through. And
no,
and you know, being a former football player, that, looking back at what I used to do to where I'm at now, kind of reminisce and kind of miss that stuff. That was like the height of where at my peak where I felt so good. And it's just like, I miss who that person is. But I can honestly tell you that I'm glad who I am now. And I'm
yeah,
glad that I have evolved, and everything happens for a reason. Even when we don't want it to happen, we just get some cards and we got to play the cards the best to our ability.
we really do. You have to be resilient because if not, like that's what breaks you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Sadly, like I didn't choose for the silly. So like there was a lot of like resentment. I was so mad because like I wanted to do 20. I wanted to do 20 years. I wanted to be a lifer, and that was taken from me.
But you also got to look at it like this. There was other plans for you. There
Well,
was other plans.
absolutely.
And where you're at now, do you enjoy where your life is at now?
Oh, absolutely. At the time, right? Like in the moment, like when you're in the moment, right? Like you're like I was upset. I was like mad, but I am a woman of faith, and so like I knew that everything happened for a reason. I had to trust God had a plan for me. There was something else bigger, better for me. He wasn't done with me.
Right.
And so what I'm doing now, I'm absolutely 100% fulfilled, right? I have a mission. I'm driven. I'm doing things that like I couldn't do in the military. Like, I'm making actual real impacts in the world. So like it is truly a blessing that my traumatic brain injury did not take away that ability of my mind, right? My mind
Right.
is my superpower. I will always say that.
Right.
But the transition was not easy. I will say that the transition was hard. No one tells you how to make friends as an adult.
Right. Right.
You know, you fit into this world, right? All I knew was the military. And now I'm transitioning to the civilian world where I haven't been since I was like 18.
It's not
And
easy.
I'm like in my late 20s, early, like I don't know. How do I make friends? How do I have a conversation with somebody who's worried about, you know, what somebody posted on social media or what type of makeup to get when I just came from like, I'm trying to save lives and,
Right. Right.
take down bad guys.
Right. Squat. What is that? Dig, squat, and bury. Like just to go to the bathroom.
Yeah. And so it's like, how do I find common ground with people that have no, we don't, it's like we don't speak the same language. And so like, I still struggle with that today is like, how do I fit into this world, right? How do I make friends? How do I even, talk to people?
Communicate with people. What can you, I will just giving you some tips. Current events. Something funny. Something that you have interest in is probably good for good conversation sparks. A normal one that people always like to talk about is how's the weather, and like what are your hobbies? Like what are you going to get into this summertime? Um, it's going to take some time. It really is, and it's we're always a work in progress.
Absolutely.
The good Lord has you here for a reason. At the time when that happened to you, I know you're like, what did I do wrong to have to go through that? But like I said before, that we get the cards that we are dealt. You don't pick the cards. This is what it is, and you just got to make the best of them, right?
Yeah.
That's all you can do. That's all you can do. So, one other question I do got for you on here. If there is a young woman that is listening right now and thinking about joining the military, what is some of the advice that you can give her and something that she should know?
I'm gonna put my like big sister hat on, right? Because I'm always like a big sister. I'm like always in the protector role.
Go ahead.
I'm gonna be really blunt and really honest, right? If you're female and you want to join the military, do it. Be courageous. Don't let your fear overcome you, right? It's normal to have fear. It's normal to feel anxious, right? You are entering a male dominated career. But also in doing that, right? You will hear a lot of different sayings. Don't listen to opinions of others. Opinions of others does not matter. What matters is that you show up, you give it your all, and you don't waver. And then there's a sensitive topic to my women out there. Sexual harassment, sexual assault when you're in a male dominated field is a reality. They like to like laugh it off and be like, "Oh, like we're all like family, like we're all bros here." But it's the truth. It's a culture. And so don't be scared to stick up for yourself. Don't feel the need to cave because it is a culture or it seems like this is normal. If it makes you uncomfortable, say something and never be scared to stand up for someone else or yourself. But also don't take no shit and keep pushing.
Awesome. Thank you, Daniel,
That's my
so
big
much.
sister advice.
Yeah, that's some good shit right there. That's some real good shit right there. I appreciate your time for this great interview here. I do got one question I ask everybody that comes on here. This is the question for you. If the younger you could see you right now, would the younger you be happy who you are?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think because it's taken me a long time to get here, right? Um, it's taking, right? We have to go through a lot of the hardships to appreciate the rainbow, right? Weird saying, I know, but I am so thankful for the broken road that I traveled because now I'm here. And though I'm not as confident or I'm not the person I used to be, I have that knowledge of who I was, but now I have a different way of shining my light and still being unapologetically me. So I think she'd be happy and she'd be proud.
Hell
She'd
yeah,
be
right?
like, just don't cry over losers, maybe not date so many like military men and just like
Yeah,
go
change.
find a different type of
Yeah,
man
try a
and
different
date.
something. Try something
Yeah,
different.
try something different.
Awesome, awesome. Hey, Danny, I appreciate you so much for your service, and thank you for opening up and letting everybody know exactly what the life is like through the transition. Thank you so much for coming on.
No, thank you for having me.
Awesome. All right, y'all. This has been another show here on ShedTalk.